as far as signaling for rescue, two qualities, which will keep you very much alive. And what are they?
Contrast and movement.
Okay, perfect. Contrast and movement. So if I have this, and this was camouflaged, I don't give a damn how much you're moving it, right? There's no contrast to it. But if I have a contrasting material and I have movement to that, that's the ticket. How many times have you been walking down the trail and you see a little bunny only after you almost stepped on the bunny? Why didn't you see the bunny? No contrast until it moved. Actually, way back when there was blaze orange desert cottontails, but they would instantly get eaten. Because they could just sit there and think they were hiding and the coyotes would come up and eat them. That's why that gene pool's gone. And the anomaly, the little brown rabbit, seemed to live, and that's the story of evolution of the desert cottontail. So we can use that metaphor to keep our butts alive. Ideally, you have contrast and movement. Sometimes you won't be able to have the movement. What's an example of a non-movement type signaling device?
A cross that you make on the ground?
Ground to air.
That's fire.
So we have ground to air, and I'm just going to write a whole bunch of things down. Smoke, reflective, so disregard what I just said. Sound. What senses does the body have? What senses do human beings have?
Sight, smell, taste, hearing, and touch. Sometimes they can sense ghosts.
Okay, so what seems to make the most practical sense being out in the bush in a survival situation for SAR to pick up for us?
Sight and sound.
Okay, this is huge. This is huge here. What about that one? Half star, okay, that has been used. If you're tasting your rescuer, you've gone to a level of intimacy that's beyond a typical survival situation. And if you're touching your rescuer, things have gone very well. Probably, and you're at dinner and you have your hand on their hand and you're about ready to pop the question. I'm starting to tear up. Anyway, these are the big ones. So when you think about, besides the sixth sense that only women have, especially when you've been late at the Rim Liquor bar and you're coming home, right? So when we think about how humans respond to data, then it's pretty easy to see, listing out of another list here about we want to really be high on the visibility, we want to be high on the sound, and lesser so smell. What's an example of a ground-to-air signal that is the one to pretty much use in most of the circumstances we're talking about here?
Smoke?
Panels?
This could be, ground to air to me means something that is static. Okay, it can move. You could have a flag of material out there draped to a tree blowing in the wind. It's ground to air and it's a flag, but ground to air typically to me means certain symbols, like that page in your winter survival booklet. There's a bunch of them. Need fuel, need medication, we went this way. The military has a whole bunch of different options. We don't give a shit about that. We care about one. What does it look like and what does it mean?
A Y. Yes, I need help.
Nope.
X. Three of them. Can't proceed.
What does this mean?
I'm here.
It means unable to proceed. Okay, it's pretty easy to make. Now, it might not have contrast. You're supposed to give it the contrast. We did one again for Dateline NBC where we stomped in the snow in X and lined it with the fir boughs, partly that we were using to sleep on, and we made those boughs into a smoke signal as well. So the bed turned into signaling devices the next day. Now, green's not a very good contrast. It is on white snow, but not so much in a forest. But what is the contrast in this scenario?
Smoke.
The green on white. Well, it's
The shape.
The shape. It doesn't occur
Where do you
naturally
see a
in nature.
30-foot X in the woods, regardless of the color? Contrast can also be the shape, not just the color. It doesn't belong there. And if you've left a game plan, holy smoke, what's that big green X doing there? Oh, there they are. You know, and you bleed them into your scenario. So this means unable to proceed, period. So what I do in my Jeep, I have a Sunday paper from the big cities, the ones that weigh 16 pounds, and you can lay out a Sunday paper on the ground and tack it with earth or stones or whatever, and make a very, very big X. Because what's the #1 contrasting color out there?
White.
White. White reflects the entire color spectrum. Well, this is a winter survival course, that's kind of a bitch if there's snow on the ground. Then you have to make exceptions. That's why we use the green. You know, you're probably not going to have a whole bunch of signal panel material in chartreuse orange or whatnot, but what is the thing I talked to you about the very first day or the second morning about your clothing? Okay,
Bright
if
and
there's
orange.
any way that you can get away from the camouflaged or black, or I have horrible clothing on for being found, clearly. You know, it's pretty much just flat out camouflage. Some items, this is my mom's, when she was doing SAR. I mean, even if it's something like this, if I had a kid in the woods, guess what that kid would be wearing? All the time the kid was, "Dad, put your vest on and shut up before you get out in the woods." Because I want my kid, if I had one, to be a gross motor skill to find. Okay, this is a no-brainer to find. It much more, do not let your little kids out there with camouflage clothing and then have them do the hidey hole technique. You might have a dead kid. You know, so this is everything. Contrast and movement. And even if the body's not moving, it has some contrast.
That when I go out with my kids and the family, not only them wear bright colors, but we as parents do too, so they can see us.
Sure, it works both ways. You know, so these are the hallmarks of everything we're talking about here. But it's hard to have a big X on the ground move. So some things aren't going to be moving. Some things will be moving. And we'll be outside here in a few minutes. And when I teach you, if you don't already know how to use a sighted military signal mirror, you don't just want to hit the target and accept that you might be hitting the target. You want to sweep over the target, because that gives you a better chance of connecting with the pilot or the driver of the Jeep or whatever. But it's also doing what when you sweep it over the target in question?
Like movement.
Movement.
Yeah, it's movement. Flash, 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 flash. And that's what attracts attention. Wow, what is that? Okay, what's that down? Well, that's probably them. Let's radio in to the Jeep crews that we've found them. Fire by night, smoke by day. A lot of SAR crews deal with forward-looking infrared. They have night vision on board. Like I said earlier, if you kept the game plan and stick to it, they will see your campfire. You know, if they have night vision potential and they're flying at night, I've been told by SAR, Granite Mountain is not a huge mountain, but it's a pretty big mountain of size right outside of Prescott. And there was people lost on that mountain. I had talked to one of the guys, again it was Mike Townsend, who was in the chopper with the night vision. He said, "Cody, the whole goddamn mountain, the whole side of the mountain was lit up. And right in the middle, boom, there was the one campfire." So what's usually happened now, and I've been forced by Discovery Channel to do it, on the fire thing, is we used to do 1 fire, 2 fire, 3 fires in a triangle, or fire, 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 20 or 30 feet apart. I've already described to you the woman that burnt down half of our state, lighting a bush on fire. To be able to attend safely and manage the fuel base, to make 3 fires is a real booger. To all be ready to light at the same time, hell, you know that, running around the woods out here. Imagine having the fuel to do that and to make sure all the target areas, and then to be successful 3 times in a row. In my opinion, and this is being taped, so it better be accurate, but it probably isn't. In my opinion, if you've left your game plan with your rescuers and you're where you said you were going to be, duh, of course it's your campfire. You know, and if it's Billy Bob's 100 yards away, then the chopper, they can walk right over and pick you up. Okay, clearly if there's 2 campfires and one's not yours, go to their campfire and say you need help. Okay? So typically you're out in the wilderness or whatnot, and that'll draw them in like a moth to a flame. Very powerful tools, night vision. Most search and rescue units have that, okay, if they sell enough cookies. Now, for one missile, we could outfit the entire world with this stuff as far as expense and save hundreds of lives, but of course that's not the priority. So fire by day, fire by night, smoke by day. This is sketchy, smoke, especially in a pine forest. I don't think I could probably get, I have gotten smoke above aspens that were almost as tall as these trees. Very difficult to get smoke commercially unless you have a military connection. Those little smoke pots, forget it. Our search and rescue uses them, but they use them to sense wind direction for landing the helicopter, not for actually using them as a smoke signal. They just don't put out enough. And to be able to get, with no breeze, smoke above those trees is a real problem. That's a massive amount of stuff, and even then there's no guarantee. The slightest breeze, forget it. It's just going to trail along the ground and you're no dice. But if you're in a prairie or you're in an open area of desert or something, you don't need to launch it above a boreal forest. So it's something you should know about. And petroleum products are black and the green vegetation is white smoke. So if you have one of those days where it's all kind of white and it's not really a blue sky, it's diffused with clouds, you're not going to have that much contrast anyway, bumping up white smoke, but you could get into smell land with some of your rescuers. So what you want to do, if your life's on the line, is be like your drunk uncle at the Christmas party, smashed with a lampshade on his head, doing the Macarena on the picnic table. You want to attract as much attention as possible, and then when you know you're found, back off. Because it is your life. So I'd want to be doing a lot of this shit at once. Well, you don't have a time. Well, let's see if this works, Frank. Oh, shit, it didn't. There goes the plane. You know, you want to hit him with the ground to air. You might have a fire going. You're hitting him with the signal mirror. You're blowing on your whistle. You're doing all of this to attract attention. It's your life on the line. Reflective, we'll get into down here and outside, and sound. So what is the pattern for general universal distress?
3 blasts.
3 blasts. Look at all these whistles. Ton of whistles. More whistles than you never thought possible to be made. Should it be like this? Or should it be like... How should you blow the whistle? Why the second way?
The first one might sort of fuse into one sound for people.
Especially in rolling mountain terrain. Okay, if you blow the 3 blasts too close in succession, in rolling terrain or heavy trees, it might sound like brrrr. You know, so you want to have a quarter second, half second space. Toot, toot, toot. Don't go toot, 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 because it might roll. The sound waves mix, and then we have a problem with that. I do like the brightly colored whistles that are P-less. If you take the metal whistles, you should watch A Christmas Story, and I triple dog dare you in a winter survival situation to blow in a metal whistle, because it'll be stuck and you will have part of your lips on the whistle because it'll freeze to that. Also, the old P-less whistles, they can waterlog. Also, the old P whistles with a little thing that spins inside. You try going out in 0-degree temperatures and putting warm, moist breath in that and see what happens to your pee. It's going to freeze. So I like the brightly colored, non-P-less, you shake them and nothing's happening, whistle. And there's a lot of different varieties, as you can see down here. Some people clearly have too much time on their hands, you know, designing these whistles. But whatever floats their boat, there's a lot of different choices for you to make on that. Survey tape, Hansel and Gretel thing, without the mess. You know, if you need to go one direction and you're putting these at eye level on saguaro spines to spruce boughs, if you're going, you put one, you go, you turn around, you still see it. If you need to leapfrog, if you're not going to shelter in place, or you need to go recon and make your way back, very powerful tool. Try to get the color the Forest Service is not using, but you can also tell the UV degradation on this and maybe have a magic marker and write on it, hey, we're scared shitless, we're walking this way, etc., etc. Flares, there's some good flares out here. They're getting harder to deal with again because they're flares, but this one's not hot, it's spent. This one, you drop it down, You'd undo this thing, a chain drops down, which is no longer there because I've already shot it. You point it straight up, pull on the chain, and it goes out about 250, 300 feet. This particular brand, it's very bright and obnoxious. It is an extreme fire hazard, potentially, if it falls. So I don't do much flares in Arizona for obvious reasons, but if I was on a lake or so in Michigan or whatever and I was boating, I would definitely have aerial flares out there because there's no sketchiness in burning down the woods, and plus, you know, you picture saw or something flying over a flat body of whatever, sand, water, and they're right there or so, and you launch it off right in front of them. They do save lives. They're costly, and you have to rotate them, and there's an inherent fire danger and a way to make fire, but this is pretty violent. When this comes out of here, you wouldn't want to be pointing it at someone, you know, right through their eyeball. You know, it comes out at a high rate of speed. Other mirrors, acrylic mirrors, space blankets, we have them we can play with outside. They're very, very visible as far as high contrast, especially when they're moved. Improvised mirrors from can lids, nail hole through there, polished side. Hold this real close to the face in a shaded environment, and you can almost get the same thing we're going to talk about with these other commercial mirrors about finding where this thing is reflecting. Because this really, it's okay, but it really doesn't cut the mustard, because if you're off 1 inch down here, you're off 300 yards if the plane's 5 miles away. I mean, I'm sure there's a mathematical formula for it. So a sightable signal mirror is key. That's what we'd want to do. But you can make a can lid sightable. You can pimp out a CD and make it a little bit more sightable as well by putting some electrical tape on the back there and reducing the glare and trying to trap this subtle little pinpoint of light on the non-reflective side, and it's easier done than said, but we're going to focus on the commercial mirrors. But reflectivity, you know, people have been found by turning their cell phones on out there with, you know, with night vision. People have been found by taking one of those mish metal matches and striking it, and that's with night vision. It's like someone's turning on a strobe light. So maybe it's your laptop, maybe it's your cell phone. If you remember and you've left a game plan, you realize the technology people could be using out there, use these things to your advantage. You know, these little LEDs right here, holy crap, with night vision, they're like a whole different universe. I was told a AA mini mag, okay, we all know what that is like, with night vision looks like a truck with its high beams on, like a semi with its high beams on. That's how powerful it amplifies those light rays. And that's good news for us. Let's take this stuff outside and we will make bright shiny spots on trees.